Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to the chaos that is my podcast. Today, I wanted to come at you straight from the heart, as if I don't usually, but uh, today specifically, I feel like it's a Saturday evening, right? I could be doing so many different things, and here I am out here making a video and a podcast, and I thought, what a strange thing to be doing in this world. Living in the modern day where we can share our thoughts instantly, post them, and have people watching them within minutes, and consistently questioning why I make my videos, why I talk about the things I talk about. And a recurring theme is there's so much bullshit out there that I wish it could be slightly, at least the tiniest bit, drowned out by some rational thinking. And I consider myself a rational thinker. I don't toot my own horn. I'm not an arrogant person who brags about what I contribute to the world, because honestly, I don't think I contribute much more than anyone else. Each person has something to offer, and I'm not one of those guys who's saying everyone's equal, because no, there are some people who suck. The fact that we cherish some people who are amazing in society, that we look up to certain people, in order to even have that, you have to have the opposite. Everything has balance, meaning that the fact that there's certain people we look up to, there's always going to be certain people we look down on. The question is not why do we look up to the people we do. It's because they have a characteristic or an attribute that we wish we had, or maybe one we do have, but we respect and see that in them. But when it comes to those we look down on, it's usually people who aren't living up to not just society's standards, because I think that that's a cop-out. It's people who aren't living up to their own standards, people who give up, people who take shortcuts, the kinds of people who, for example, will go into your garage and steal your things for their kids, right? The people who will rob presents from under a Christmas tree, and literally give them to their own children on Christmas. It's it's a crazy world to live in, because there's a massive division among the people who just want to live their lives and would never harm another person or do something like that. And then the very small fraction who make it miserable for everyone else. The reason why everyone has to have security cameras on their house and alarms and everything else and cutoff switches in their cars is merely because of this tiny percentage of people who do horrible things. The same reason you have to lock your doors at night, or women shouldn't walk alone. It's not a massive amount of people who are willing to harm others for whatever reason it might be, whether it's for physical gain or control over another, or I'm not going to say the word, but a lot of men out there will take advantage of a woman because she is walking alone, and that is a scary thing. I can't imagine what it would be like. I'm a 6'3" tall white male that can handle my shit, and I don't, feel like I'm under threat. The reason I said white is because I don't have to worry about cops either, right? I mean, generally, I don't get fucked with. I never have. But I have been judged, of course. I've been picked out because of my hair, the car I drove, things like that. But that's petty shit. We all get judged by the cops. My point being that I've never felt the feeling of being a victim who is a predator is, fucking with. And that kind of shit is important. It's important to remember that some people, especially women, have to deal with that. Um, so with that said, there are people who steal, right? As I mentioned, there are people who will harm women or just men in general. There are some people who are just abusive assholes. There was this guy that got busted the other day, and I hate to date things. This dates the podcast, but they called him the Tesla, road rager or whatever in California. This dude had just gotten out of his Tesla and beat like all these different people up, mainly women, and like punched them and shit, and then got back in his car and took off. They finally caught him, right? Well, he's like some 35-year-old guy that had a history of abuse and whatnot. But it was just funny that they labeled it as the Tesla driver. I'd noticed how they'd been like I don't give a fuck what kind of car he drives. This dude's out here beating up people on the freeway, you know. But I guess that maybe, you know, helped him to be identified. But at any rate, there are people like that who have some aggression to take out on everyone. The kind of person who, if you come up next to them on the road and they flip you off and you flip them back off, they might shoot you. It's scary. It is. For some people, they take every precaution and never take a risk. I'm the kind of guy who will get, you know, okay, I thought about this today. Revenge. I actually said this to someone, revenge being a dish best served cold is what I was always told. And that, of course, just means that, yeah, I'm not going to explain it. But yeah, sometimes it's instant. It needs to be instant. And when people talk about folks getting their karma, often I say, well, you have to be the karma. Sometimes, you know, it's not that you just wait for God to work in mysterious ways. It's that you know which ways need to be worked. You take care of your shit. You know, you get revenge. For example, you came out and somebody's breaking into your car. What do? You know, do you scream at them or do you run up with a lead pipe and whack them? I mean, there's a lot of different opinions people have about this thing. Some people would just say shoot them. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not going to kill someone over stuff. But I would have no problem if society decided to go back to taking off fingers. Something that I used to think was so obscene. And then I read and learned a lot about the Middle East, you know, all the way down to why they don't eat pork, things like that. Because, you know, swine were animals that ate food similar to humans. And during lean times, you know, they were not a recommended animal to have. They don't make milk or anything like that. And the whole history of why we have these different, I guess, ideals about what's real, what's right, what's wrong. These things can take centuries, if not millennia, to create an idea of what reality is for any one culture. And regardless of the reasons we choose what we choose, we now living in the 21st century just have completely moved in a different direction over the last couple decades, where we believe anything we want to believe. And basically it's I want to say it's similar to what we've already had, except everyone is so connected now that we see a lot more of the violence, we see a lot more of the hatred, the bigotry, and we start to assume that that's the way the world operates. And statistics don't help. Here's what I found. Talking about how crime has gone down, or that, you know, violence has gone down, or that poverty has gone down, that we've actually improved the world, it goes nowhere with people. Some people just don't want to hear it. They honestly have a very dark view of how the world works. And after thinking about this for several years, I've come to the conclusion that a lot of people, they want it to be bad. And I'm a slight doomer. I can't help it. There's a weird thing in the back of my mind that says humans are just a scourge here. Since I was born, the population has doubled. And we're doing nothing but going in progress, right? It's the same old shit, you know? More wars, more weapons, more progress. And towards what end? I mean, but the thing is, the population is slowing a little bit, but I don't believe anyone anymore when it comes to fucking anything, you know? And I'm not saying I'm one of the people who doesn't believe anything at all. But that brings me to the crux of my conversation and the point I wanted to make here. The main point, with all the bullshit that we're flooded in our minds, that we're constantly fed, it used to be through the radio, then it was through the television, and now it's through advertising, and now it's through all of them. You know, TV and advertising through the computer. Basically everything you click on is an ad now. It's been that way for quite a while. But the sad part about this all is that people want to get your attention. And to get your attention means that you have to turn off your moral values. I don't recall where I saw it, but somebody was saying that anyone who works in like advertising or marketing, especially of, products that are known to be harmful, uh, they've got to be horrible people, and they've got to have, either be sociopaths or not be able to sleep at night. And to even take a job like that for any amount of money just doesn't seem worth it, because no amount of money is worth lying to people about their health. Cigarettes are a perfect example, as more doctors smoked Camels, is what we were told in the 60s, right? What they were told. I wasn't born yet. I'm not that old. So, we find out that the cigarette companies were lying, the oil companies were lying. We knew all this the whole way. But when it comes to our current atmosphere, every company is lying to you. And I bring this up because it's important when it comes into the context of people believing that everything they read on their favorite website is true. And nobody seems to want to verify, confirm, or understand any of the topics they discuss, which is disheartening somewhat. But then I realize it's not the people in general. So there's something to be said about rage bait, right? Any type of media that wants to talk about something controversial, that will be top news. So the ones that don't buy into it generally get drowned out, right? Well, the same thing happens with the responses or any types of reactions. So that's why you go into a YouTube video or something and it looks like the whole comment section's full of hate. It's not true. It's just that anybody who poses any type of a controversial, comment, of course, is going to know they're attracting a lot of hate on it. And it's interesting because I don't know how to view it. I feel like on one hand, we're going through a big change in society and that we're improving as a society, that we're starting to kind of trust each other a little more in certain ways. But at other times, I just feel like people are falling apart. And I have to remind myself that it's a small percentage of the population that really thinks that, like, for example, the people who believe there's going to be some civil uprising or war. What are you talking about? Americans aren't going to join forces on the battlefield and have some sort of a war against each other unless they have a good enough reason and they're fighting strongly enough physically for their beliefs or their ideals, which, yeah, it did happen. But that was to free human beings, and it was also more controversial, of course. But it was bloody. We learned a lesson, and hopefully won't ever do it again. But there are people who are cheering this on. They want it to happen. And it's pathetic. It really is. There are a lot of people out there who are ready to fight. But they are a very small percentage of people. It takes a huge effort for them to get a major group together, especially when people talk about, groups that are all for their color, whatever their color of skin might be. And they want to celebrate that. Like, there's a minority of people who are very vocal, and a majority of people that are like, come on, let's grow up as a society. And I feel that's the note I want to kind of finalize this video talking about. And the main point of it, which is not that the whole world's fucked up or that everyone believes propaganda. I think a lot of people have become disheartened with a lot of the bullshit around them. Like, there's a reason why mainstream media's numbers have dropped significantly over the last couple of years. They're desperate to get their viewers back. They're trying everything they can. CNN Plus, remember that shit? Oh my God, I think that's what it was, where they tried to do this. They spent like billions of dollars on this program and tried to do their own kind of subscription service. And no, it failed immensely. Lost a lot of money. And that's good. It's a good sign. But on the other side of the fence, we have an entire world of conspiracy theorists who will tell you all the bullshit that you want to hear in order to get your money. And that's just how it is. It's not, look at Alex Jones. He was kind of the earliest epitome of it. And I'm no stranger to him. I've, watched him for years. Not in a way of believing him, but there was a time when I read that shit and said, oh, some of the shit he talked about was true, for sure, back in the day. But he really, went off the deep end because he was too much about the money and not about the truth. And I think everyone should be wary because it's always the money. Whenever people have too much money, they just can't seem to be honest. It's really sad. You see this everywhere. And the poorest people can be some of the kindest people, and the richest can be some of the biggest liars and cheats. And that's unfortunate, but it does seem to be true. And at least I'm going to stand by that and believing that. I know there's some generous, wealthy people. I'm not saying that there aren't, but that, I don't know, people tend to kind of stick within their wealth bubbles. Life is complicated, right? I don't know. I guess I feel like I'm kind of a lone wolf in this world. It's why I've always done my podcast alone. And sometimes I think, well, that's, people want to hear others' opinions too. And I do as well, but it's hard to get people who really want to sit and talk that I feel like I can relate to on a level where they're comfortable with a microphone and being normal, just having a discussion. So maybe one day I'll do that. But for now, I guess it's a way for me to express how I feel about things. And, overall, I feel pretty good about life because my family is healthy. We're relatively happy as much as we can in the wintertime. Damn it, I can't wait for the summer. But, I think those are the important basics. Having family, having a few friends that you can see once in a while, and also setting boundaries, being able to know you're comfortable in your surroundings, at your home, in your workplace. Especially the workplace is kind of overlooked. If you have a shitty job, you're not going to be happy, obviously. But we can always convince ourselves to do the best we can. And I guess that's all we can try to do. So, with that said, I'm going to go now. It's been about 15-ish minutes, 18 minutes. I'm kind of rambling at this point. I like to make a podcast off the top of my head. But tonight, I'm a little tired. So I'm going to go on back to my bed. Maybe to the living room, watch a movie, be lazy, and do absolutely nothing. Thanks for coming along. And I'll talk to y'all next time. Peace out. I guess I had to turn off the microphone here. I was going to turn this into a podcast as well, and I think I will upload this to my podcast hosting thingy. Whoop. I'll see y'all next time. Say hi to Mom.